Hey guys, my name's Kenny, and today I'll be doing a review of the Kizer Vanguard Series Mini Sheepdog. First off, I want to preface this thing by saying, I'm fairly new to this whole thing. I've loved knives my whole life and somewhat collected them throughout my life, but I always would spend, $30 to $40 on a Kershaw or a CRKT, and I never really paid too much attention to the upper end production knives or even the, $100 to $200 production knives. And I just recently kind of delved into that world by buying a pair of 3. And that just kind of changed my life in a way. I just realized, especially someone like me, I'm very critical on the tools I use and stuff. And it just really just blew me away. And I realize now why people spend so much on knives, and it just opened a can of worms for me as far as, just learning a lot about the different blade steels. When I was young, there was a 440C was like the top end, and it just, it's really just changed a lot in these last, 20 years. So I'm really just impressed by what's going on in the knife world now, and including, this is why I'm doing this video, is because this knife really impressed me at a $69 price range. I'm going to get into the specs of this knife really quick. It is an overall length of 5.77 inches, which is a very small knife. It's a blade length of 2.63 inches, and the cutting edge is 2.5, has a nice sharpening choil there to give you plenty of clearance for sharpening. The blade is VG10 in a cleaver / sheep's foot style. It is a flat ground, and it's the blade thickness is 0.11, and the blade width is 1.25, 1 1/4. The handle length is 3.14 inches, and the handle width is 1.125, which is from here to here. That handle thickness is 0.45 inches, which is nice and slim, and it fits in the pocket. It kind of disappears there. You don't really feel the thickness of the knife very much. The weight is 3.17 ounces, so it's got a nice weight to it, especially with how big the blade is. It's a pretty thick, big blade, so it's nice and light for that. It is right hand only, tip up carry. So sorry lefties, no option for you on that. But just to give you some size comparisons, I'm gonna go ahead and do the pair of 3 since I already had it out. You can see it's quite a bit larger in the handle, at least. Not as much in the blade if you look at it this way. I mean, you got about maybe 3/8 of an inch extra in blade there. Here's a pair of 2. This is the Jade M4 version, Blade HQ exclusive. This got me into it, and of course I had to have this once I saw this was on there. And man, the Paramilitary 2 is just excellent. I really do love it. It is a little big for me. I don't love carrying this in my pocket, especially where I work. People kind of look at me a little weird when I pull this one out. It's fine. It's not too murdery or anything. It doesn't look too gnarly, but it definitely, people look at me a little strange when I pull out a bigger knife like that. So, okay, and a few more size comparisons. And these are the comparisons that are really gonna, if you carry these knives, this is really gonna fit in your pocket. And that's this is gonna be the Benchmade Mini Grip Tillion in the 20 CV and G10 version. And that is gonna be a really good size comparison there. Or the Spyderco Chaparral FRN. This is a sweet little knife if you've never seen this. Ooh, tripod. But these are the ones that are really going to be the comparison. And what I'll say about it, you look at the Spyderco here. The blade on the Spyderco is a little longer, but if you look at the cutting edge, it's almost exactly the same. So you're really getting just as much cutting ability out of this as you are out of this. It just has a little bit longer handle, which for extended use is going to be more comfortable. The Kizer is really just a 3-finger grip for my medium to large hands. I wear a large in latex gloves. This is just going to be really just a 3-finger, which I will say at first I was like, oh, I don't know if that's going to be big enough. I was looking at the regular sheepdog, wanting to try it, and it just seemed way too big, especially at like, I think it's like 6 ounces. It's just too heavy for my everyday use, everyday carry. I'm not going to have, you know, this thing is beautiful actually. The action is drop shut. It's nice. As soon as you disengage the access lock. But the reason I'm talking about this knife today, I'm on a tangent here. The reason I'm talking about this knife is because I'm fairly new, like I said, and it's just with the different knives I've gotten a lot in a short amount of time. And with the different knives I've gotten, I've noticed an inconsistency in quality control and stuff, and some knives that I'm spending a lot more than this knife. This is a $69 knife. I have a Kizer Gemini right here. I'll also do a size comparison with this Kizer Gemini. And also the T1, sorry. I'll do the Kizer T1. This is with my custom anodization that I did. It's not perfect, as you can see, with little spots like this, but it was my first try. I'm going to go back in and try again and do some different stuff. Now this thing's got amazingly smooth action, drop shut, but at 170 bucks, you know, pretty good centering there. At 170 bucks, I would expect that. The crazy thing is, you know, at 69 bucks, I'm almost getting the same kind of quality in the action, smoothness, just the tolerances are super tight. The centering is perfect. I just was really impressed with this thing. I mean, just flies out of there. And it's just a really nice knife for 69 bucks. And I find myself having a hard time not carrying it right now. Whereas with this thing, this Gemini, I mean, I know I'm just being critical here, but look how off that centering is. And it really does bother me. I mean, in a reality, the knife works. It doesn't rub. It has amazing action as well. Not as drop shut as that one because of the weight of this cleaver style blade. But it is a fun knife, and I have a lot of fun fidgeting with this one as well, and it works great. The blade is super slicey. It cuts amazingly, just like the T1 and the Mini Sheepdog. And that's what really, at first, the fun factor got me. This thing was just really fun out of the box to fidget with, you know? Then, as I took it and put it in my pocket and started using it, I was actually really impressed with the way the knife performed. I found that this, you know, okay, so it is a fairly thick blade. You almost have almost an eighth of an inch as far as the thickness of the blade. And that's a lot in such a small knife. But with the width, which is also one of the gripes on this knife, the width of this blade makes it nice because this full flat ground gets it pretty thin behind the edge. And what you find with this is it is super slicey. I mean, it goes through cardboard without any hesitation. It is just super slicey. And I was super impressed with the way it cut. And I found myself carrying it more and more, even with the smaller handle. I mean, obviously, if you're going to be cutting all day, this is a little small. You want something that's going to fill your hand a little better. But for what it is, it does fill your hand pretty good. And if I'm just busting it out to cut some boxes down every now and then at work, this is perfect. And it's very unassuming. Like, people do not look at this blade and go, oh my gosh. If I bust out my 940, you know, I get a lot more looks of like, wow, that's a big knife. Why are you pulling that out? And to a lot of you guys out here, you're going to be like, big knife, that's a small knife. Well, in my world, I live in California, and people look at this, they think a little bit more murdery than this knife. This knife is very unassuming. People think more like box cutter when I bust this out, which is really nice. I don't get weird looks when I pull out my knife, and it is a nice fifth pocket knife. But in saying that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the downside to the width of this thing. It is 1.5 inches this way, which is not bad. You know, if you compare it to like a paramilitary 2, you know, the paramilitary 2 is still going to be bigger. You're still talking about, you know, maybe a eighth, or I'd say a 1/4 inch width more with the paramilitary 2. But in saying that, you know, it's much shorter this way, and it is a little bit smaller this way. When I put that in my fifth pocket, it fits perfectly this way, but it fills that fifth pocket much more this way than, like, for instance, the mini grip. The mini grip really just disappears in that fifth pocket. I don't even realize I'm carrying it sometimes. And as well with the chaparral. The chaparral is the same way. It kind of just disappears. I don't even notice I'm carrying it. This one even more so than the mini grip. It is amazing how this thing disappears, which is expected. And that super thin blade is extremely slicey, which it's probably the most slicey blade I have, to be honest. This thing really does kind of fill up that fifth pocket, and when you're sitting down and stuff, you do notice it. It's there, and it kind of digs into my side a little bit, which is the only gripe I really have. But when you put it in your normal pocket, back against the corner, it really does disappear, and it's even more so than, like, obviously, like your Para 3, which is a little bit wider, or the Paramilitary 2. I mean, it's not going to disappear quite as much as the, you know, Benchmade, because, I mean, the 940 is so narrow, and it just really just tightly tucks up in your pocket. But this thing does disappear. I don't really notice it in my regular pocket, though I do in the fifth pocket. It's a little bit bulky in that sense, in this width sense. But other than that, I mean, the thing really is nice and light. It does disappear when you got it in that regular pocket. And when you pull it out, it's fun to use. It's really fun to fidget with and sit on the couch and play with. I mean, that's the real part. I mean, you hear a lot of YouTubers talking about that with this knife. It is so smooth and so fun to play with. Yeah. But there is a little weirdness with the detent ramp because it kind of catches on it right there. My thumb's a little fat, and when I do that, it kind of catches on the detent up and pops. But it's kind of fun because you can swing it closed in that way too. Like, you can pull on the detent and swing it off the detent ramp. Once you get it past the detent ramp, it does just fall shut, which is beautiful. And the clip is a nice clip. It's pretty cool looking. It's different. It comes up nicely over your fabric. It does carry fairly deep. It's not super deep. Obviously, it's not a deep carry clip, but it hides enough for me. I'm kind of critical with that too. I don't want people to be, I mean, the Para 3, you know, with the standard clip, with that much hanging out of my pocket, I do not like that. I had to go deep carry. But, you know, that's my preference. A lot of people don't care about that. Where I work and what I do, the way I feel, I kind of like to have my knife hidden. So, or at least mostly. You know, I don't mind them knowing I have one. I just don't want it hanging out of my pocket. Sorry about hitting the tripod there. Okay, so I digress. The blade really is just beautiful. The satin polish is nice. I really do like the way it looks. I've got some smudge on it right now. I'm going to grab my cloth that comes with it. It's a nice cloth that comes with it from Kizer. I'm really just impressed by Kizer with this $69 knife, and that's why I'm talking about it. And I've probably over-talked about it already, but you know, this really is my first $69 knife that I was just super impressed with. And in conclusion, this knife has really blown me away. It started as just kind of like I wanted a sheepdog. It was too big, and I saw this was coming out. I knew it was going to be $69, and I was just like, I'm going to grab one. I just want to try it. And with having all these knives, I love having this one as well. It fit right into my collection, and I'm stoked with how it came out, how the one I got, how the fit and finish and action and everything just came out superb. I really think it's an amazing knife, and I suggest it to anyone out there that's looking for something small, fifth pocket knife that's not gonna be something that people like turn their heads at, except to like be like, wow, that's a pretty knife if they like knives. It is very utilitarian. It is very useful. I hear people say that this thing's not very useful in an everyday task. Dude, I mean, I'm not cutting into big bags of sand. I'm not doing like really gnarly work anymore. You know, I work in a shop now. I'm not I was a carpenter for 12 years. This would have been probably not the knife I carried at work. It's probably something more like that. But it's, you know, for what I do now, this is fine. And this is something that people aren't going to just like be worried about when you pull it out. And that's what really wins for me. If you're looking for something like that, if you just want something fun to play with, it's absolutely great. If you cut a lot of boxes and you do that kind of stuff, dude, this knife is perfectly fine, and it slices through boxes, and it slices through tape, and it slices through that kind of stuff. I found it fine for the tasks that I usually have at work. You know, I always have a second knife with me that can handle a little bit heavier duty if I need it, but this is just fine for most of the stuff I do. So anyways, I've rambled enough. Have a great day, guys, and I will be hitting you up with another video soon. I know this is my first, but I'm going to hit you guys I'd say maybe a week I'll drop this one, but I do have a package. If you know what this means, Leahy, Utah, you definitely probably do if you're watching this video, but I got something fun to open up. So I'll get back to you guys with that, and have a great day. Thanks a lot.